This is Musical Talk.
Musical Talk.
The UK's independent musical theatre podcast.
Musical Talk. The UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Musical Talk. My name's Nick Hudson. I apologise for my radio silence. I've been very busy currently scoring a theme park attraction, but that's all done now, so I'm back. My thanks to Thos for taking over the airwaves here on Musical Talk. I'm here with Professor Robert Gordon, the convener of the MA Musical Theatre Writing course at Goldsmiths University. Hello, Robert, how are you?
Hello, Nick. I'm really well, thank you.
Good. We're going to be discussing two, well, they couldn't be more different, could they, shows that I have seen recently. You've seen one of them, Robert.
Yes, I've seen Beautiful.
The Carole King musical. We'll start with that. I am a fan of Carole King. I am a fan of oldies. I knew very little about Carole King. Now, this was a show that opened, was it only last year on Broadway, Robert?
Yes, I think it opened last year.
And it's kind of flung its way over to London quite successfully, I think.
I think it's a very commercially viable show. There's very few people, certainly very few people over 40 who don't love Carole King. And I think people under 40 will love Carole King once they've seen the show. You
said before we started that you just love this kind of music, don't you? But it was something special that this show did. It's not purely about Carole King, is it?
No, I think that the interesting thing is that they include the songs of Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil, who are the sort of rival writing duo
at the Brill Building.
The Brill Building, yes. And they've got there are some wonderful songs. They include on Broadway, for example, which is one of my favourite songs of all time. I'm not sure who wrote that, whether they wrote it or somebody else, but they include that.
It was written by
Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil.
Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil and Levi Stoller and Jerry Ross. It was Levi Stoller and Jerry Ross's idea, and the two others stepped in and completed the song.
Well, On Broadway is sung, and it's sung for us on stage in the show by the Drifters. I mean, they're actors dressed as the Drifters, but it was a great hit for the Drifters. But it's one of the great songs of all time. And I mean, some of the 60s songs are great classic 60s songs, so it's wonderful to hear them again.
I mean, but we have to excuse me, we have to consider that Carole King not only was a musical prodigy, she wrote It Might As Well Rain Until September when she was only 15 or 16, but she's also written some of the most famous pop songs of all time. Will You Love Me Tomorrow? Take Good Care of My Baby.
You've Got a Friend.
You've Got a Friend.
And Beautiful.
Beautiful. I don't think Beautiful is the best title for the musical because it's not the song that immediately springs to mind. I would have thought Tapestry would have been a better name.
Yes, but I don't care about that. I think Beautiful is a very upbeat name, and I think that to have it, you wait throughout the show. There are sort of chords variously played throughout on Beautiful, but when you finally get to it, it's absolutely beautiful.
There are moments, most of the songs in the show are, of course, like this kind of bio-cool, as I call them. I wrote this song tonight. Do you want to hear it? Yes, let's perform the song. Clap, 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 move drama on. There are a couple of non-diegetic moments. Specifically, the most powerful one is at the end of Act 1. I'm not going to give anything away, but it's the moment where she's at her lowest point, and the song that she wrote turns into her inner thoughts, which is very clever. And also a wonderful moment at the beginning of the show, when you have this kind of huge medley of all these songs that came from the Brill Building being sung in counterpoint with each other and all dancing around the Brill Building. I thought that was a very, very clever piece of musical staging.
The show itself is very slick, it's very cleverly crafted, and it's very shallow. I feel it's not really a great musical. Yes, it's not a great musical in terms of book musical. It's not a book musical, but what it has,
songs, isn't it?
What it has is, I think, the best collection of jukebox songs of any of the jukebox musicals we've seen in the last 10 years. The book is better, in my view, than the Jersey Boys. The story is much more interesting because Carole King's life and the abuse that she suffers and the depression of her husband and writing partner is much more complex. So you get a much more internalised view. And Katie Braben, as Carole King, is absolutely stunning. She sings like Carole King without imitating her. She's a good actress. She's absolutely stunning.
And I think she was playing the piano as well.
Ah, well, that's,
No, it's hard to tell. I was being a bit naughty, and I was craning my head round looking at the conductor to see if he was bashing the keys, and he was.
No,
sometimes.
I think I agree with you. I think at certain times, certainly, she was playing.
If she's not, she's doing a very, very good job at giving us the impression that she is.
The other great performance is Lorna Want. As Cynthia Weil. I think she's almost as good, but she doesn't get quite as many opportunities. But Katie Braben, this is a star. A star is born.
Yes. But what Katie Braben did, which she came on stage and I thought she was a teenager. And then, obviously through costume and posture and stuff, she does that amazing... She does grow in front of your very eyes, and that's always a problem with these sorts of musicals, like the Jersey Boys. They look exactly the same as they do at the beginning of the show than they do at the end of the show.
She doesn't. She transforms.
She actually really changes.
Brilliantly.
I'm sure it's wigs and things
yes,
like that.
I quite agree with you, but it's the performance too. She's a brilliant actress and a great singer, and I think we'll be hearing a lot more from her.
And she actually went to the Rose Bruford College, where they do the actor... musician training.
So it's quite possible that she's really that well trained as a pianist.
Yeah. So all credit to Katie Braben. Absolutely wonderful performance.
I have to say, completely at a tangent to what we're saying now, but I have to just say, on an emotional level, near the end of the second act, the Righteous Brothers perform "You've Lost That Loving Feeling."
Never close your eyes anymore.
Nick, I don't think you should audition for this, but it's
too late.
It's just unbelievable. It's to me, that's the greatest pop music ever written, and it's among my top 10, and it's wonderful, and the audience obviously feel the same, and the applause when the song starts, let alone when it finishes, is amazing. And it's a great, uplifting, exciting show about music and singing, actually. Not really about very much else. Of course, there's a very interesting life. I mean, what they try to explore the effect of her husband's depression, that she puts up with it as a woman, that she struggles as a woman to assert herself, but it's treated, let's say, in a superficial way. The book is intelligent, but it is superficial.
It's very funny at times as well.
Yes, but it's shtick. I mean, it's a Broadway show full of shtick. But that said, you will have a wonderful time. It's so well crafted and such fun.
So if it were just a play about her life with the book, it wouldn't be as powerful.
I think it might be
to say because it's about.
I think it might be more powerful if it was a play with a few songs, actually. But that's a different category. I mean, this is a jukebox musical, but it's a very, very good one.
I also want to applaud the design of this show. There's some wonderful. We rarely mention automation on this show, but there's some quite effective things with pianos rotating and things like that. That's what stuck in my mind.
The scenic design is by Derek McLean. Yes, I think the set has the kind of slick tackiness that one can imagine.
Slackiness, we'll call it.
Yes, of the late 60s and 70s. It's all lit in, Turkish delight sort of colours, but I think that's absolutely appropriate for the period. And it's fun, and it's very, very appropriate for what they're doing, and it works like a dream.
When Carole King was at the workshops for the Broadway production, I presume many, many years ago, she had to leave the workshops because it was so creepy for her to see her life appear before her, and she's completely distanced herself from this production. It's all down to her daughter, who is in charge of Carole King, but in charge of the show. And
I believe she gave it her blessing, but she doesn't want to be involved.
But what's interesting is, for example, Little Eva sung The Locomotion, which was a big 60s hit, written by Carole King. Little Eva was actually her Carole King's daughter's babysitter.
Absolutely.
Has that wonderful line when Cynthia Mann and Barry come angry at how much acclaim that Carole King is getting. And she said, even her babysitter's getting hits from her songs.
There are some lovely lines.
But the version of The Locomotion we get in the show is a much more Broadway-ized version of the original song. And it's the same with on Broadway. It's full of key changes and it's showing off the vocal power of these performers more than the original songs. Do you think that's right to do that, Robert, or do you think that's wrong?
No, I think it's brilliant. I think they all work brilliant. I mean, I love the George Benson version of On Broadway, but I think it's much simpler than what we get here. And I think it really, in some ways, it shows you the musical inventiveness of the writers and the producers. And it shows you what good producers there were at the Brill Building.
So Beautiful is playing at the Aldwych Theatre. I really do urge you to go and see it. It's a wonderful, wonderful evening. I'll be going again. So that's always a sign in my books that I've enjoyed a specific performance.
Well, I'll be going again too. Don't expect a very sophisticated and deeply complicated book, but it's a wonderful evening in the theatre.
It is. Not as wonderful as a recent evening I had in the theatre well, I say theatre, I use the term loosely, a pie shop.
You saw the pie shop Sweeney Todd.
A fake pie shop based on a real pie shop.
This originated on the Fringe in a real pie shop, didn't it? Harrington's Pie and Mash, is that right?
Yes, in Tooting, which is a real place, listeners, if you're not from England. And it was set out last year. I think it was around November, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't get in.
And Thy Lord Sondheim went to see this production and said to Cameron Mackintosh, if you can get this production anywhere, do it, because it terrified him. Which is amazing, because no one probably knows Sweeney Todd more than Stephen Sondheim.
So what was so particularly impressive about this? Because we've had so many recent Sweeney Todds, and at the same time, the English National Opera are doing Sweeney Todd with no less a singer than Bryn Terfel, the opera singer, and with Emma Thompson. So it's very starry cast.
The non-singer, yes.
Yes, it's a very starry cast, and they've done it on Broadway. Now, what makes this one special?
Well, I saw it. Let me just finish what I was saying about. So Cameron has now put it between two of his theatres because he owns the buildings, and it's now they've recreated the pie shop with a few more seats. It seats 75 now, and it's still intimate and wonderful. And you are sitting in this pie shop, and the actors are in the room with you. You are not watching it through a window, as in most, whether it's a concert production, it can have the best cast in the world. You're not watching the film with Johnny Depp. It's
not proscenium arch.
No, you are there. And I don't think it's ever been done like that, ever.
So it goes one step beyond the John Doyle Sweeney Todd, the actor-musician one.
I love this production. Of course, I'll say that I had review seats, and my seats were, pretty good. There are 5 tables in the room, going long ways, I guess. So you have to sit at an angle watching the action happen. But the action doesn't just happen in front of you. It happens on the tables, sometimes on your lap. Sometimes you are asked to move so something can happen where you were sat.
This is what you call immersive theatre.
Yes. And I love this kind of stuff because I enjoy theme parks, and I think the two are linked incredibly.
So it's bringing the staging of Sweeney Todd into the 21st century.
Yeah. Whilst keeping its Victorian melodrama, because that's what the piece is parodying in a way.
What about the performances?
It was a bit shouty for such a small room. They don't need mics, obviously. We had a piano, a viola, and a clarinet, which works beautifully. And I have to give the best performer of the night, who did not stop, was the chap playing the piano, and I applauded him bigger than I did any cast member, because that is a really hard score to play, just the piano.
I think he's not credited as pianist, but I think he's credited as musical director.
Yes.
And his name is Benjamin Cox.
Yes, absolutely. Young chap, must have been probably fresh out of Cambridge, I think. And the best performer of the night, because that is not an easy score, and I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. Well, maybe I might. To play that, over and over and over again, and sort of conduct as well.
And what about Siobhan McCarthy as Mrs. Lovett? Because I've been told a story, I never saw it, thank goodness, but the Covent Garden Royal Opera House production of Sweeney Todd, I was told that there was an opera singer playing Mrs. Lovett, and that it's the first production that my friend has ever seen, the one who told me about it, where he said Mrs. Lovett didn't get one laugh through the entire production. What about this one?
Belly laughs throughout. She was wonderful. I've seen Imelda do it. I've seen Angela Lansbury on the DVD do it. I've seen Maria Friedman do it and mess up her lines. With Bryn Terfel, funny enough, which is why I've got no desire to go back and see the the Lincoln Center production. And Imelda was very, very good, but Siobhan was slightly younger. Because it was so intimate, you really felt for these characters more than any other production I've seen. You really had that terror. The bit in Pirelli when they're doing the shaving contest, they're really shaving. They're real razors, and there's very little blood until spoilers here. There's very little blood until the judge gets murdered. And then the poor girl whom I sat opposite, her handbag on the floor got absolutely covered in stage blood, which will give you an idea as to what happens. So,
well, what about Jeremy Seacombe as Sweeney Todd? Because it's a very demanding role vocally.
He was intense, powerful, absolutely terrifying. He did this thing with his eyes where it looked like they're about to pop out of his forehead. That he would literally stare some members of the audience out. He jumped on tables. He yelled at audience members. When it really works, his production are the crowd scenes. For example, the opening of Act 2, when Act 2 actually doesn't start in the pie shop. It starts in the bar, and young Tobias is saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, come into the pie shop and try these new pies." So we are the crowd. And the people are sitting there amongst us eating the pies. And
actually there are only 8 actors in the cast.
And when Todd comes up to you, you are absolutely scared shitless. I cannot stress to you, Robert, how powerful this production was.
Well, Nick,
It's not comfortable. You're cramped. You're scared. You're on edge. But you are absolutely lapping this show up.
I was feeling that, having seen about 6 Sweeney Todds in the last 5 years, I was a bit Sweeneyed out.
Me too, and I thought, and I do feel every time Joanna, cut this Green Finch.
That's sacrilege. But
it is integral to the plot. But
I'm going to go and see this one on
You just want more of Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett. And what I do applaud this show is they have cut down stuff. They have cut bits of Little Priest. They have cut Pirelli's stuff. They have.
Well, I wouldn't always recommend cuts, but perhaps in this kind of production, definitely. But it seems to me, Nick, on your recommendation, I have to get a ticket.
You do. Kill to get a ticket. That's what everyone is saying about this show. It's absolutely stunning. They have extended to May 30th, which is really nice. Sadly, it won't stay at this place because it's been turned, ironically, into a restaurant.
Such is the fate of theatres in London.
Yes, and I met our friend Martin Ball, presenter on this show, after the show. He'd been to see it the day before, and he said it's the best production of Sweeney Todd he's ever seen, because you are not watching it as a theatre piece. You are an eyewitness for these crimes. It's beautiful. I've never seen light and design done with candles before, but apparently that can be done, and
I've seen it many times.
Incredibly atmospheric. The bald people in the audience will get elixir rubbed on their head. The slightly hairier people in the audience will get scissors being scraped across there. I mean, it's like a scare attraction. It's everything you want a production of Sweeney Todd to be, and I cannot give it enough praise, Robert.
Well, as you said at the beginning, it sounds like a small and intimate theme park.
So do go and see that. Sweeney Todd playing at Harrington's Pie and Mash Theatre between the Gielgud and the Queen's on Shaftesbury Avenue. And all credit to this little Tooting Arts Club that we've never really heard of, Robert. I haven't. I'm sure you have.
Well, what a turn-up for the books. A production of Sweeney Todd that's better than any other, with a huge star cast.
Yes. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Nick.